Morning, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of CERAWeek 2026. And to start off, it's really a pleasure to welcome again the 55th Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum. Join me in welcoming him. Thank you. So, Doug, before we start, let me just turn it over to you if there's anything you want to say.
Well, Dan, first of all, it's such an honor to be here with you. I mean, think about 35 years ago when you wrote the prize.
Yeah.
And now 15 years ago when you followed up with a quest. And of course, that perspective that everybody in the room is used to guide them, understanding not just the history, but also the future that we're living right now today. So it's an honor to be here with you. And for everybody in the audience, I just want to open with the same words I did last year here, which was 2 words, which was thank you. This group in this room, your presence matters, your work matters, the investments you make, the teams that you've built, the energy that you produce has transformed the world. And certainly right now with President Trump with an energy dominant strategy, which is all about energy abundance. It's about the energy for affordability at home to power our economy, to win the AI arms race. But it's also about the ability to sell to our friends and allies so that they don't have to buy from adversaries that are funding wars or funding terrorism against us. None of that's possible in America without the private sector. And whether it's American companies or our allies and friends that invest here, all of you are making a difference right now. You're literally changing the world for the better. This is an exciting time of transformation. As you'll hear, I'm super optimistic about the future and filled with gratitude to be here with all of you and for all you do. And thank you, Dan, for this moment we get on stage.
Well, we're obviously everyone is very appreciative to have you here and your perspective and how you see the world. And we should probably start with where we are now, the crisis in the Middle East.
Well, I'd say that, again, building off what I just said, the energy dominant strategy and President Trump's approach towards unleashing power as opposed to trying to restrict it. The idea that we need energy addition as opposed to energy transition. The policy of energy transition was always false, because if you're going to transition from reliable, secure, and affordable 24-hour dispatchable power to something that is intermittent, weather dependent, and highly taxpayer subsidized, it's not energy transition, it's energy subtraction. At a time when we've got a demand signal for more power, whether that's for liquid fuels, for transportation, whether it's powering AI, because we're in this spot for the first time in history. You can take a kilowatt of electricity and convert it into intelligence. I mean, turning electricity into light is amazing. I mean, thank you, Thomas Edison and everybody else along the way. But being able to convert it into intelligence is something that many of us still can't fully comprehend the impact of that. So we need energy addition. That means unleashing all of you. It means cutting red tape. It means lowering taxes, getting rid of crazy regulations that are not saving the planet. They're just impeding and hurting certain forms of energy. So this strategy was built for this moment, and now we find ourselves in a position where this president doesn't have to kick the can down the road on a terror regime that's been terrorizing the world for 47 years. And if it's all the conventional wisdom that people talk about, people might criticize and say, oh, America's not good at, building alliances. No, we have the entire Middle East and Israel all aligned in one position right now. We've got, Eastern Europe is more aligned with us than they've ever have been, because they understand the threat of Russia. So, we had a critical minerals summit a month ago to take on the threat of China controlling critical minerals. 51 countries showed up and want to partner with the U.S. So the alliances and the opportunities have never been stronger. The strategy has never been more spot on. And the execution that's happening right now is just setting all of you up for an incredible future.
Right. Well, I think we heard yesterday from Sheikh Nawaf from Kuwait exactly what you're saying, the alignment that now that exists, and the anger and outrage at what's happening. Any thoughts about how the crisis unfolds?
Well, I think as you're hearing the reports, publicly reported, that there is a dialogue going on. I think that people are encouraged about that, but obviously, there was a set of objectives that the administration went in. One was that the terror regime can never have a nuclear weapon. Tremendous progress made last June and in the last few weeks on that front. It was also to take away their ballistic capability to be able to project those weapons, including nuclear weapons, to our friends and allies around the world. And of course, we learned that they'd always been lying about, Iran had always been lying about the distance they could go.
Yeah, that was a real shock to
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they said during negotiations last year, they told international agencies, they said it right before the negotiations broke down, oh, don't worry, we could only go 1,200 miles. And then they launched 2 missiles at Diego Garcia at 2,400 miles. That means they can hit London. Right. That means, Venezuela was a hotbed of Iranian-funded terror groups, including Hamas. If there was a Iranian ballistic missile placed in Venezuela, it could not just reach Houston, it can reach Washington, D.C. Right. And so, again, the actions that the United States is taking to make the world safer is lowering the risk premium that I think was missing from the market, because maybe the market wasn't recognizing the risk of having.
I don't think the market knew.
Yeah.
The market didn't know. Well, you mentioned Venezuela. You were there recently. Just share your takeaways from the visit.
Well, it was an amazing trip, and had an opportunity. Chris Wright was down there first. I had a chance to follow. Both of us went down with oil executives. In addition, on my trip, there was also a set of mining and minerals executives. Over the 2 days that we were there, got a chance to spend almost 10 hours with Delcy Rodriguez. They are full on going on to try to make sure that their country, in their words, competitive. They want to be competitive to attract investment from all of you. And of course, the human capital that exists outside of Venezuela. I mean, one of the companies that was with us had 600 Venezuelan American employees working here in Texas that know the operations in Venezuela better than anyone in Venezuela. We had a mining company global mining company, one of the top companies, their head of Australia left Venezuela after their company was nationalized. He shows up with a report on how to revive a sector of their mining industry, knows more than anyone in the Venezuelan government, knows more than anyone in their industry. So the opportunity, not just for capital, but for human talent to return, and the resources there are quite amazing. And from that trip, we did bring home with us, usually you have to be in the Olympics to bring home the gold, but there hadn't been a shipment of precious metals between Venezuela and America in over 20 years. At the end of the 2 days, we were able to bring home $100 billion of gold, physically, the gold, to bring back for U.S. refiners for commercial and consumer purposes. So the level of cooperation is going. And then we struggle with our own legislature here sometimes. They passed the hydrocarbon law in 3 weeks. The mining folks said, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had one like the hydrocarbon, like the oil and gas guys had? Delcy said to the U.S. executives, "We'll tell us what you want in the bill. We're introducing it on Saturday."
This is quite a change from where she might have been 3 months ago.
Yes, and so then then they take the feedback. It gets introduced. Her brother is the president of the Senate. I said to him, "Is the bill going to pass?" And he had a short answer: yes. And so Monday they introduce it. It passes first procedural that night. And so again, whether it's oil and gas or mining, they're on a path towards investing. And again, people ask me, we felt very safe. But of course, the people on the street, are watching Major League Baseball here in the U.S. closely. They're wearing NBA jerseys, and they will probably build a statue to President Trump because they feel he liberated their country. They can remember what it was like from 20 years ago. They want to go back. I mean, their economy today is 1/4. Their GDP is 1/4 of what it was.
Well, I was thinking you were formerly governor of North Dakota. To just think North Dakota produces more oil than Venezuela.
Yeah, yes, and it's a.
I mean, North Dakota produces a lot of oil, but it's still that it's greater than Venezuela. I mean, what an opportunity that's been lost for that country.
Yeah, in Venezuela, I mean, shortly we're going to be up 50% from January 3rd. And I know it raises expectations. When you take a sanctioned adversary and turn them into a strategic ally in 2 hours without any casualties, that tends to raise expectations about geopolitics. But
I know one thing on your agenda very much is the critical mineral agenda. Did you come back with a sense about what the potential is there?
Yeah, the potential is huge, and in traditional minerals as well, they have enormous coal resources. In that coal, there's critical minerals, the precious metals we talked about, but the mining opportunity. I mean, that's an industry that's been in complete collapse in Venezuela, and they know that. It's down to just artisanal miners controlled by gangs. Some of the probably some of the worst environmental practices in the world. They want a clean environment. They want to have modern investment. They want to see growth in their country. So right. Very optimistic.
Right. For you, one of the top issues is permitting, and very much an issue both as Secretary of Interior and as head of the National Energy Dominance Council. How do you gauge the progress? Because that is for everybody, or at least so many people here, whatever industry they're in, is such a critical issue.
It's critical on a macro basis. I mean, the estimate is that there's $1.5 trillion of projects that have been approved by your boards or by state governments or by small businesses, by individual private, farmers and ranchers that they can't get a permit. I mean, we're clogging our economy up. I mean, we could add points to our growth if we could streamline permitting. And the permitting, when we're in a global competition to build great things quickly, America could always do that. And when we, in any of these industries across mining or oil and gas, again, thank you. We do it cleaner, better, safer, smarter here than anywhere in the world. America and the world should want us to be producing all of these things here. I mean, every electron, every ounce of fluid should be done here because it's done better. We're not saving the planet by killing U.S. industries and shoving them out around the world and creating highly insecure supply chains. We have to bring all of that home. Permitting is key to that. There should be no, even the word bipartisan. I feel like I could sit down with any congressman and any senator in any state and explain to them, here's the amount of capital that is not being spent in your state because of some goofy reason why it's not going forward. So we have to compress the timelines, eliminate the duplication, and I could give you a long list of everything that Chris and I and Lee Zeldin, who should be voted the deregulator of the year, all the things that are happening there to try to compress these timeframes. We have under emergency in Interior, under emergency rules, we have completed an environmental assessment in 12 days. These normally take 1 to 2 years. We did an environmental impact statement in 24 days, and they usually take 2 years or longer.
Explain that.
I was in software for 30 years, and this is the worst way you could ever write code. I write a few lines of code. I send an email to Dan and say, Dan, here's some code. Could you finish it? You got 30 days, get back to me. And then he sends it on, to Clayton, who sends it on to Peter, who sends it on to the next person. And then 2 years later, you're like, what did we write? That's how some of these permits were going through the federal government. I came from business process. That's what I did for decades. I said, show me the process to get a permit. And it's all downtime. It's not 2 years of work, it's 2 years of slow rolling, in some cases purposefully, to try to stop a project, particularly if it was in this industry. One way it was like they would train people against this industry and say, if you want to slow down an oil and gas or an energy project, use NEPA. If you want to kill it, then use the environment, the Endangered Species Act. I mean, it was a weaponization of regulation to try to drive this climate fantasy about transition. So unwinding all of that, getting it back to the original law, following the science. When we do that, and then we put strike teams on and said, your job is to work on this permit, and you come every day. And it turns out it takes about 12 days of work to get one of those permits done, not 2 years. I mean, in terms of actual work time. And that was before we had AI, and then we throw AI in the mix, and we're going to be able to accelerate it even more.
I mean, that's really quite extraordinary.
But yes, but again, when you dig into how government works, I would put our 24-day EIS in front of a judge with a dozen other ones that took 2 years and ask them which is the product that they will say took the shortcuts, because right. a strike team focused on it every day will do better work than a bunch of people doing the email right. whisper chain.
Right. So on minerals, there's permitting here. Obviously, there's also the processing as well as the mining. And I think one of the things that the administration has done is talk about a preference zone, about working with other countries on minerals.
Yes, well, there's been, of course, last year, China, who has for decades been very clear about their intentions. They said the Middle East has oil, we're going to have critical and rare earth minerals, controlling 85 to 100% of the processing, not just of the minerals, not just that we need, but the whole world needs. I mean, last year, the world kind of just kept rolling along, but let's understand, we were within about 2 weeks of every auto plant in the free world shutting down because of the control of these rare earth magnets that China has. We hustled, we lined up 6 countries before the president, signed agreements with 6 countries before the president met with President Xi. They had a little bit of detente. China was going to hold off for a year. I mentioned the 51 countries that came to the State Department recently. We had task forces already working. We've expanded and accelerated them. We've taken the extraordinary steps to have the federal government actually make investments in mining companies around critical and rare earth minerals to help stabilize the market, bring capital back, because China was doing illegal dumping to kill specific companies doing specific work. So this club of nations who will trade freely amongst each other with an agreement around a price floor. The price floor is not socialism. The price floor allows capitalism to work. The price floor allows free markets to go in and invest in junior miners and invest in people that are developing.
With confidence.
With confidence, knowing that there's going to be a group of people that have agreed that we're going to pay a price which would allow a return on that capital. So we're bringing capital back into the mining. It's not just drill, baby, drill. It's mine, baby, mine. And for the U.S. Geologic Survey, we say map, maybe map. We got to get back to our core function, which is mapping the resources of this amazing nation and our allies who request help from USGS, and then making that information available to the public to use so we can go develop these incredible resources.
Right. Speaking of resources, you were just in Japan at the Indo-Pacific Energy Security Conference. Your takeaways from that and how that relates to what may or may not happen with Alaskan LNG.
Okay, for sure. I mean, we had, Chris and I and Lee Zeldin had planned this Indo-Pacific Energy Security Conference months ago and had picked the date, not knowing that we were going to have at this time a conflict in the Middle East. We had about 400 people that were planning on coming. There was strong interest. With the events happening, we had 650 people show up. It was sold out. 17 energy ministers from far south as Australia, New Zealand, and of course our allies in the traditional post-World War II allies, but also remember, in Interior, the most misnamed department in government, we also have all the territories. So we have 14 time zones in Interior, which includes Guam, Marianas Islands, American Samoa, and the South Pacific. All of these places have military installations. Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific with Pearl Harbor, huge military installations. Guess what? All of our territories, U.S. citizens with military bases, and the state of Hawaii import foreign oil. Japan, I think the whole country now knows 92% of their oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Right. It's a country of 120 million people in the size of North and South Dakota. Korea, where we have 30,000 troops, almost completely dependent on imported foreign oil, and there are 55 million people living in half the size of North Dakota. So our allies are completely vulnerable. We knew this on day one. This is one of the reasons why President Trump declared an energy emergency on day one. Why on the day one a year ago, he had an executive order on the first day unleashing Alaska's extraordinary energy potential. We have the ability to sell U.S. energy from Alaska. It'll keep the price down for the Europeans. It keeps the price down for Americans. But we can unleash all of that new supply to our allies in the Pacific and make it more secure. And when we're at it, maybe we can get some to California, because California imports 63% of their oil based on their own state website. Check it out.
Yeah, I mean, California, of all the United States, the lower 48, is the one that's most integrated into the global energy market.
Yes, and therefore the most vulnerable because they're importing refined product and they're taking product out of Canada, shipping it to Korea, turning it into refined product, and back to California. But this is to the state that has more internal combustion machines than any other state even has vehicles. They're creating an energy crisis of their own. They used to have 40 refineries. Texas has 36. There's the new one, the America First refinery being built, $300 billion project here in Texas. California's got 8 refineries. 2 of them, Chevron and Valero, have announced they're shutting down because of regulation.
Right. So Alaskan LNG, that was on the topic.
Alaska LNG is a key to this thing. With every barrel of oil that's come out of the ground in Alaska in the last 50 years, there's been no place to take that associated gas, and it's just been re-injected. It's not a field with a BCF, it's TCF, it's trillions of cubic feet, and then there's more gas that's up there. We held a Alaska lease sale for the first time in years from the Department of Interior at the National Petroleum Reserve Alaska last week. Record number of tracts, 1.3 million acres, 87 tracts that were successfully completed bids on. About a dozen companies, including some of the best ones that we have that are up here, and some other new faces, but very exciting. In the North Slope, the mayor, you met with him on Sunday.
Yeah.
The native Alaskans from up there are excited. I mean, just like everywhere in the world, when you've got development, it means it pays for their hospitals, their clinics, their schools, their roads, their airports.
And they were very appreciative of your visit.
Yes, well, and then we'll be back up there again, but it's an enormous resource for the world. And again, when the U.S. is executing on energy abundance and energy dominance with all of you, we make the world safer, and we bring prosperity to Americans, but also to the whole world.
Right. So, Mr. Secretary, I think one of the things that take away for this audience is changing business processes. As you said, you did that for 30 years, from 2 years to 12 days. That is, I think, for many people in this audience, and certainly for me, an extraordinary message. So thank you for the time you're spending with us. Thank you for what you're doing.
Can I offer one other challenge before I go? Because I want to say to this group, you've heard my optimism, but I also want to say there's an opportunity with the permitting bill right now. If you have got a project, if you have an issue with a permit, I mean, come see us at NEDC. We'll help fix that one permit. But we'll use the knowledge of your problem to try to write better policies and compress processes. But if you have a project that's being held up by a permit, in addition to calling us, use your government affairs. Right now, there is an opportunity that we haven't had before for bipartisan support to get new permitting. You guys should be pushing hard, and we can help you, we can direct you. But if you've got, swing state senators or swing state congressmen, talk to them and explain that permitting is good for everyone. It's good for the world, the permitting reform. So that's one challenge. And the other challenge is keep taking risks and keep innovating. With AI coming, if you haven't been to the Microsoft, the Google, and all the other folks that are here, I went and saw some of the products yesterday on products that they have with AI, on permitting reform, on exploration, on advanced technologies, on issues related to emissions. There is amazing things that are happening, and very few people understand how fast it's coming. These models are getting better by 10x every 6 months. We're not in the era of Moore's law where it's twice as good every 18 months. Some people couldn't keep up with that, and some executives ended up having their Kodak moment. Their Kodak moment wasn't like a beautiful picture. It was their company was totally disrupted by new technology. AI is going to change every job, every company, and every industry. And if you aren't employing AI, your company is going to be disrupted. And so I would say we need energy for AI, but we need AI for energy. Make sure that you're also taking advantage of the second half of that, and because we're at a remarkable transformation where we can deliver more energy to more people for more prosperity than ever before in human history, and you're a part of that. Your work matters. Don't ever tell yourself it doesn't. Theodore Roosevelt said the great prize in life is the opportunity to do work worth doing, and we have the guy that wrote the prize, and we have all of you that have an opportunity if you're in this industry, you're doing work worth doing. So again, from the Trump administration, thank you for all you do. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, CERAWeek, for holding this amazing conference.
Thank you. We really appreciate your being with us. To the Secretary of Interior, thank you. That was great.